Ooh.
My wife does that, right? She's like, hey, you know that song? And then she'll sing it. And she, while great at many things, let's just say she doesn't have perfect pitch. All right. And then we'll hear the song later and she's like, that was the song. And be like, that was the song that you were humming to me?
I'm sorry, Meredith. Sorry this came up.
So, yeah, dude, like, this one's a heavy hitter. There are not many ads unless you're like an attorney, a personal injury attorney in Buffalo, New York. There aren't many ads that people use like over and over and over again for years. Like there are campaigns and there are some ads. Right. There are some ads, right? And some of them are attached to a particular holiday, which this one is, right? But this ad was used for a very long time, and that should tell you something. It should tell you something.
I think I read 14 years or 17 years.
Yeah, no one really knows for sure, but it was a long time.
If it were to air today, or even if it had aired at that 14-year mark or that 17-year mark,
I think like 2005,
you would know that it was.
Yeah. I saw 2005 as the last air date, and I feel like my memory tells me, but I'm old now or older, so like my memory does this. So maybe that was the last time, but I feel like I've seen it even more recently than that, actually on broadcast television. Anyway.
Okay. Well,
we should probably just end the episode here. I feel like honestly, I feel like you said enough.
Without my commentary, this episode would be awful, just like my complexion.
It's not, Matt, don't do this. Don't do this, man.
I won't. All right. You want to watch it?
Let's do it.
Thanks a lot. Merry Christmas.
I know how to wake him up. Come on.
Best wishes for this and all your mornings from Folgers.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm very interested to hear what you think of this ad. I'm willing to go first here, but I'm very interested to hear what you think about this ad.
Is there enough air in the room? Because I could suck it all out.
Or you could, as you often do, blow a bunch of hot air into my room.
If you were bitten by a rattlesnake, I would suck the poison out. I would.
Okay. Likewise,
I've never done that before. I've only seen it in City Slickers.
I have done you a million favors, and one time I asked you to do something for me.
Oh, yeah, and the one time you're sucking poison out of your friend's ass? Forget it!
I'm blind!
It turns out it was like a cactus. It wasn't even a rattlesnake. It's hilarious. But yeah, I would do that for you.
Okay, so you will go first, is what you're saying?
I feel like you've said enough for the both of us. So yeah, this advertisement, where to begin? Christmas, 1985, Folgers. The story that I heard is that this ad was very thought out versus the ads that are just run-of-the-mill thought out. This one was very thought out. And they employed something that not a lot of advertisers were doing, I guess. Like psychology was a thing in advertising, has been a thing for a very long time. There's a Frenchman who identifies more as American culturally. His name's Clotaire Rapaille. He's written some books, and he has been in, I think he's around like 80-ish years old now. He's been in marketing for a very long time. He has a consulting firm. And what he would do is he would do these focus groups where he would have people, he would talk to them over the course of a day in these sessions, to the point where even like he would have them in dark rooms or lowly lit rooms, like laying down, resting, and just talking and trying to like get to like the root of an idea or a concept in your subconscious. He believed in this idea of like this whole like, reptilian brain kind of idea, and that there was this kind of primitive kind of cultural subconscious that we all share. This is also like a Jungian psychology. And he said there was like a code word for like any product. So like cigarettes symbolize like some idea of like maturity and establishment in life and so on and so forth. So you should advertise them as such, and that the whole prohibition of cigarettes to minors, and that Philip Morris actually like promoting that as part of their advertising actually reinforces that and makes minors want it more. The idea of the symbol for a car is a horse, freedom, your ability to actually take your life into your own hands and go out and live your life. For coffee, I guess Folgers, or the agency that used whatever that Folgers hired, brought him in, and they used this kind of work, one or the other. And what they figured out was that your earliest memories of coffee are when you're very young. And when you're like real young, you're like 2 and 3 years old, what would you associate coffee with? Your parents, your grandparents, family gatherings. But you're not drinking the coffee, and you're also probably not even seeing the coffee. What is it about coffee when you're that age that sticks with you? And it is the sense that the sense that they say is most tied to memory. Smell. It's the smell of the coffee. Watch this commercial again. Humor me and watch this commercial again. Throw it back up. Let's watch it again.
Thanks a lot. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Everyone's asleep. I know how to wake them up. Come on.
Best wishes for this and all your mornings from Folgers.
So you saw it, right? Right? They probably snort that stuff, right? He whiffs it with the little sister, little Cindy Lou Who, right? He whiffs it with her. The aroma rises up into the parents' bedroom. It literally wakes them up. And I love that look on the dad's face. It's just like amazing, right? It's all about the smell of the coffee. They're selling the smell of the coffee in the commercial. And I guess Folgers, boom, like this sold a ton of Folgers for years. So of course they're going to keep using the commercial because it worked. Now there are some people that call Rapaille's methods primitive and says that they're not necessarily scientifically backed, and that some of it's bullshit. And maybe that's true, but I think the guy was onto something, honestly. And I definitely, I actually drink that Kool-Aid, or I whiff that coffee. Actually, I think that there's something to this idea of a cultural subconscious, something that we all kind of share and tap into, and somehow is passed down through our cultural DNA. And I definitely think that marketers can tap into it. And I think that Folgers did with this commercial.
Watching it, it's almost impossible to not notice the sensory portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the smelling, also the sounds, right? Like for me, it was, I mean, when it starts brewing, you hear that, right? You hear them, he's pouring it, and it wouldn't be that loud in real life, right? But on the commercial, it was much louder because they want you to hear that, because they want you to connect that to the, to the experience.
That's another great observation.
It's about,
yes.
It's about the experience. Going beyond the thing that probably doesn't need to be said, the cheesiness of the whole scene. I think this is a really well done ad. Remembering that, or with the sensory portion, because I think that is amazing. I think that there's another sort of layer to it, and obviously it is the visual, right? So it's a small story that's happening, right? Peter is coming home. Somebody is dropping him off. They're in a VW Bug, right? I don't know why, but to me that is relevant. And then if you notice how Peter is dressed, he's wearing kind of like almost like Letterman jacket looking thing. Cheap car, right? He's being dropped off. I mean, this is this is the 80s, so there was no Uber. Yeah. So also he's not. He's a college student, so he probably doesn't have a ton of his own money yet, right? So it's his friends dropping him off, right? Because who else would it be, right? There's no Uber. It's not a taxi. It's 1985. It's his friends dropping him off. The thing that throws me off a little bit, or leads me, not throws me off, it leads me down the path of where I'm about to get, is he's also carrying like perfectly wrapped gifts, right? And what college student? I mean, I didn't go to college in the 80s, but I'm assuming
doing his black ops work.
Yeah, as a black, right? Yeah, okay.
Uncle Sam paid for those gifts.
Ultimately, they're painting this picture of like this idyllic, like suburban home, this life, and it's who they're speaking to. It's the person who is doing the marketing, the grocery shopping, right? I think that is, without saying it, it's saying, if you buy this product, your home will be slightly more idyllic, right? It'll be
what's perfect. When the words of Clark Griswold, what does he call it? The Great American Family Christmas, or an old fashioned, whatever it is, exactly. Right? The father, honestly, with those glasses, he kind of has Clark Griswold glasses on at the end of the piece, right? Yeah.
You're the last true family man, Clark. So I think it's that, right? Yeah. Like it's. I mean, is it? Yeah, obviously it's dated. You can joke about like the cheesy looking and the cheesy sounds and like oh Peter, you're home, all of that. But that's what the mom in this ad wants, right? It's almost like it could be her dream that she is dreaming this because he's made this coffee, right? And she's smelling it while whatever. But like that's the target, and they knew their audience, and they went with it, and I think that's like really well done.
And no offense to Folgers, but that stuff they grind it in advance. It sits on shelves. Honestly, as far as quality of coffee is concerned, it's actually not that great of a coffee compared to what ultimately
could. When you want to come home, you want what's familiar, not necessarily what's
you don't want
great.
The exotic stuff that Peter's been
he's been drinking it. He's been drinking it all for the last 5 years. He wants the cheap, I mean, taste and quality is often subjective, right? Like just because a lot of people say that craft beer is better than
Americans actually favor stale coffee, right? Where the oil's gone. Like that's actually because of that mass produced kind of like vacuum sealed kind of, style, it basically trained Americans to like a cheaper, less sophisticated, flavorful cup of coffee. So you're right about that. The music, did you pick up the music? It's got this like, it's got this kind of low trumpeting kind of, it's like this enunciatory,
I hear it as a French horn,
right?
but
Yeah, or whatever it is, right? The point is, they Christmas-ized, right, the Folgers song for this and turned it into this piece. Like, it's really well done, really well done.
It is.
And it's like, but it doesn't feel like a jingle, right? Like, I don't know, they did it. I was very impressed. I didn't remember that from this commercial until I went back to it, and I was like, dang, they brought it with the music.
I mean, the jingle itself is phenomenal. It's still, to this day, is in my head. I mean, like the jingle from this era, I don't know for how long, or like when they first came up with the jingle, and if whether or not they're still using it. I imagine they still are, but or at least they should be. It's still in my head. Like, I mean, literally, sometimes like I'll wake up and I'll think of coffee, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I
do they say that though? I don't
up.
remember from this ad. I didn't pay that close attention to the end of it, because I know they like, for this morning and every morning, blah 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 blah.
They don't do the actual jingle, but they do put it together. They do put it together at the end. It's like
they do the musical identifier sound. Right? But they actually don't sing it, right? Which is just, again, goes to show how powerful that is. The use of music to do that, and then this particular one, because they don't even actually do it, and you're already hearing it in your head, right, on repeat. That's amazing. Yeah. Again, it's there. Yeah,
and how I mean, how many years later it's still there, right? Like, it's lovely. And I think going back to the whole sense of smell being, one of the most powerful, like, what did you say?
I've heard it say it's the most powerful sense tied to memory.
Right. So I think part of why they do some of like you can hear them sniff it, you can hear it pouring, is because fortunately and unfortunately, you can't send a smell through a television set.
Wasn't that like a thing, smell-o-vision? Wasn't someone working on
they're tying it to that scent?
I think that was like someone actually attempted smell-o-vision, right?
I think that was a Futurama episode,
but based on like something in real life. I'm sure it's always based on real life. It's not always based on real life, but a lot of times it is. I feel like it is. Yeah. So they did attempt in 2009 to recreate this.
I must have the wrong house.
Sister?
Oh, I missed you so much.
They waited up all night for you,
It's a long way from West Africa. Oh, coffee.
He's here.
I brought you something from far away.
Really? Oh.
What are you doing?
You're my present this year.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I don't know, like a recreation of a classic like this. I just feel like that is like, you do a sequel maybe. And I get it, because like boomers are older, and like that was a me generation that we were in back when this came out, and in 2009 we were in a we. So like the concept, that's why we think it's silly and ridiculous to look at it now. Just like the Coke, I'd like to buy the world of Coke, singing in harmony, like hippies on a hill. Like everyone's like, oh, it gagged me, right? I want to throw up in my mouth. But back then, people thought that was terribly moving.
And I mean, that's going. Really, it's going back to the well, at least it feels like that, which I don't blame people for wanting to do. I do agree with you that they should have done maybe like a sequel instead of a recreation or an update, so that it is still a part of the story, so that you're taking the sort of equity that you have in this ad and turning it into something.
Because it's nostalgia, then, right? Why do we like this ad as is? Because it's nostalgic, right? So like you're tapping into the sentimentality.
And you don't want to see, they do this in Hollywood all the time, right? There's like a reboot and like a continuation. Maybe I'm wrong, but is like a reboot is when they just like redo it, or is that the continuation?
Even like a sequel?
Anyway,
Not a sequel.
whatever.
A sequel?
But it's many, many years later. Like a sequel is often, a few years later. They're just trying to, continue. But
I think a reboot is when they turn it off and
like
turn it back on.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about then. This should have been a reboot and not a like a redo. I don't know. So and the most I feel like the most popular versions of like Hollywood going back to the well and trying to recapture the success that they had is usually when it is rebooted or just like it's a continuation, right? Because nobody wants to see the thing that they love redone,
especially if it was amazing. That's the thing. If it was amazing,
right?
What are you doing? So I got a reboot idea for a movie that I haven't uttered to anyone. This is the first time I've said this out loud, and there's more than a small piece of me that really hopes that one of our moms sees this and knows someone who can do something about this. So I think I'm a huge fan of The Big Lebowski. You know the movie well enough to know like when Maude tricks him into having sex so that she can bear his child.
Is this the same?
Yeah, it happens. It's like a secondary tertiary like plot line that's going on. Now in the movie, she says that she doesn't really want him to be the father, like socially be the father, right? She just wants to have a child and figured like he'd make a suitable, donor. So I'm thinking to myself, that movie set in 1991, why not do a follow-up film that's about the child and you name it The Little Lebowski? Right? And because you're not recreating The Big Lebowski, right? If you do that well, if you make good choices, right? I feel like that movie slays. I do. Tell me you also want to see The Little Lebowski.
I mean, I do.
It doesn't matter if you do because I do.
I really do. I think that's. I'm a little. It's good. It's a good.
I mean, is it good enough? Should I like reach out to the Coen brothers and say, listen? Hey, look, it's Eric. It's Eric.
They'll listen.
No, you don't know me.
You should reach out and say, hey,
I reached out.
This is Eric Eustace from Erik and Matt Like Ads. Now that you recognize who you're talking to, I think you should do.
I reached out to Jeff Bridges. Of course, he's not returning any. He's not returning any of my calls.
He's
not returning any of my calls, but I know he's into it. There's only one thing that I love, I think, more than this ad. That's you. My wife, my children.
This is the second time I'm going to apologize to Meredith.
But I do like this ad a lot. I do. I like it a lot. I do.
Yeah, it's a good ad, and I think if you showed this to most people right now, they would. I feel like they would say that it is not a good ad. I do like that we did this one and that we had good things to say about it.
Great.
Cool.
We still got to work on our endings. I feel like our endings are a little, like it's kind of like we were riding a bike and then you like slow down enough and then you just basically fall over. That's what we do at the end of the episode. I feel like we tip over.
Yeah.
You want my honest opinion?
Yeah, I want your honest opinion.
I think there's an alternative narrative taking place here that Folgers doesn't want you to know about. I think they're making a political statement. I don't think Peter's coming home from college like they want you to think he is. Okay. And I actually don't think that's Peter's sister. I think that is Peter's illegitimate daughter that his parents are raising to be their daughter, because that was what I think that was still of that generation. I think Peter is Black Ops. All right. I think he's been in Central America. This is the mid 80s. All right. I think he's been in Central America. I think they're meddling and he's, part of the, yes. So there you go. Where has he been? He's been in a jungle. The illegitimate child from Central America shows up, and at the same time, the sister finds out that she's actually the daughter. And then like a fight breaks out because like the sister's like super pissed at her parents who are actually her grandparents, right? And this is a short film that they show before The Little Lebowski.